If you want to trade like a rebel, you got to come to Rebelcon 2022. It's going to be in Dallas, Texas, at the fabulous Four Seasons Resort. It will be more fun and more live trading than we've ever done before. That's why it's called Rebelcon 2022. We're going to have barbecues and double the amount of live trading. The guest speakers, as soon as we announce those, this thing's going to be sold out, limited to 250 people. Sign up now for Rebelcon 2022 at the Four Seasons in Dallas, Texas.
Welcome to the Rebellion.
Bang. Welcome back. I don't know why that has sort of become mine, Pete.
I don't know either.
Giddy up, but bang seems to be a better opener than giddy up.
Well, the bang, I'm okay. I don't know what the whole clapping and snapping and all that crap is. That's what makes me laugh.
Jared, our producer, insists on it, Pete. He says it helps him.
Jared, can you pop in for a second?
Realize when the show is actually started. Welcome, folks. This is the Rebel's Edge. It is the 23rd of August, and that means you only have 2 days, 2 days to sign up for the virtual pass to Rebelcon 2022. You already saw the promo for it. Rebelcon 2022 is going to be down in Dallas, Texas, September 21st through the 24th. And if you want to get $200 off the virtual pass, which means you don't have to get airfare, you don't have to get hotel, also means you won't get to do the armadillo races with Pete. But if you sign up for the virtual pass before the 25th, it's $200 off. So go to marketrebellion.com/Dallas to sign up for either in-person or virtual Rebelcon. I know you're going to love it. Make sure you check it out. marketrebellion.com/Dallas. All right, Pete.
Well, hold on. I'm going to say this too. If you've never been to Dallas, you owe it to yourself to come to this #1 for the content and all the great stuff. Also, the best Mexican restaurant on the planet Earth is there as well, called Javier's. It's right there over there by the SMU campus. I did a bunch of games there over the years, John, where I was down there, and I'd go there for dinner the night before. I won't tell you if I took margaritas down or not, but I'm going to tell you I probably did. But the good news was the following day, the games were always at night, so I had a little bit of time to recover. But the best Mexican food I've ever had in my life. Oh, my gosh. And that campus is killer. All right, I know we're ready. Let's rock and roll.
All right, Pete, who's zooming who? The deal is that even companies like ours, Market Rebellion, use Zoom. This is not Zoom right now, but a lot of us use Zoom for virtual cocktailing with friends and things like that, for meetings and so forth. But they're having a hard time, I guess, Pete, converting all the people that use the free version of Zoom over into the paid version, and for that reason fell way short of Wall Street estimates, and the stock did this today. Bang, 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 bang.
It was down 10%, it was down 12%, it was down 14%, and they just had absolutely hammering it, John. Now, let's not forget, you and I both know a heck of a lot of people, many of them on TV, who love this stock at 300. Oh, my God, this thing is fantastic. It's Zoom, it does this and that. You've got to have the forward vision to say, you know what, though? It's just like, for instance, Peloton. At what point in time does it catch up with you that we are not going to be in a pandemic for the rest of our lives? And that's not that hard to figure out. And I think when it comes to Zoom, are they great? Absolutely. Do we like them? Do we use them? 100%. But you know, it certainly has cut back, and it will continue to cut back the more and more open people get. As a matter of fact, I'm hearing guys from Morgan Stanley telling me that they are starting to get more and more of an ask, or not even an ask, more of a tell. We want you in the office 2 days a week or 3 days a week or whatever it might be, John. That's exactly what you're up against if you're Zoom, and that's a major problem. So Am I shocked that this thing continues to go to the downside? No, it's just like Peloton. Everybody wanted to get out and get their exercise somewhere other than sitting in their home on some bike that now is that expensive clothes hanger. And I'm not saying Zoom has got that path in front of it, but they certainly don't. They don't have the same need that they once did, and that's going to be a problem for them going forward.
Yep. And average daily volume, Pete, I'm looking at it now, was about 5 million shares. It's already traded 24 million shares at noon Central Time, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. That's a lot of turnover. Maybe we get that washout today.
Yeah.
All right, Pete. Yep. What about energy, though? A lot of folks thought, including you and me, that maybe we did see the bottom for energy when crude oil broke down to 87 or wherever it hit, and nat gas came off as well. Now, both to the upside, strong. The whole sector, whether it's nat gas or crude oil or somebody that pulls it out of the ground.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, John, because we know a lot of people in the energy space, they refuse to talk about nat gas. God only knows why. All they do is talk about crude every single day. You and I both know that there's a whole lot to energy more than just crude. Crude's obviously a big driver. We all see it when we go to the gas pump, all that type of thing. But nat gas is a major deal as well. And I would put it at number 2. And then you've got all the other forms of energy that we have in front of us as well, all sorts of alternatives, everything else. But I think nat gas, John, it's amazing because people are finally starting to wake up. I just heard today on television, one of the financial channels that you and I know very well, boy, they said, boy, have you seen nat gas? It's like, yeah, we've been watching it. We know exactly what's going on with nat gas. That EQT, and I think you talked about it on here on the Rebel's Edge not too terribly long ago.
Yeah,
we've seen bullish paper in there, John, for an amazing amount of time. That was a $22 stock at the beginning of the year. All you got to do is look at nat gas at 3.5. Today, it's up near 10 to understand why that stock hit right underneath 52 bucks today. So there is that going on. And I'll tell you this, there was some great call buying. July 15th was the date. And we had a buyer of the December 40 calls, John, about 4,600 of those. Well, they were $4.60. Today, they're 14 bucks. That gives you a little idea of why you trade options in markets like this versus the stocks sometimes. It really can be much more beneficial and you get leverage.
Yeah. And Pete, speaking of leverage, because in the past, leverage was something that was negative for the housing market.
Yeah.
Because in the 2007, 2008 market crash, it was people who weren't qualified to own a home were actually getting leverage to enable them to own a home. Mm-hmm. Home ownership numbers went up dramatically, but the fact that they didn't really have the sort of credit that would imply that they could pay back that loan, that mortgage, home equity loan, whatever it might be, that really came back to bite us. Now, it's not the leverage this time, Pete. It's just that consumers are just not feeling it. It's another sign that we are still in the recession. And Pete, I'm thinking that it's not going to be a deep recession. We've already had 2 negative quarters, but I think it's going to drag out. I think we might see 3 negative quarters or more. So it might be a shallow recession, but it might be a long recession. And that's not good for home owners or home sellers.
Right. And John, it's funny. All these guys want to sit there and pitter patter around the recession side of things. You and I both know that this is a recession. You've got GDP down twice. And then you look over at inflation. It's been up 9 months in a row. And, and then finally we get a little bit of relief. Oh yeah, we're right off of the 40-year, levels. I don't know why people are so against saying, yes, we're in a recession. It's not a depression. It's a recession. And with that, John, I think the other thing with housing, it's that 30-year. When you look at the 30-year fix and you see it get over 6%, it's a lot like the 10-year right now. You see the 10-year go above 3, people seem to want to sell stocks. You see it get well below 3, people are back in there buying. I think the same thing's true when you look at the 30-year. Gets up towards that 6 level, people get a little bit saying, you know what, I'll wait. I'll see this thing come back down. And let's not forget, we were down in the 3s. I mean, it's amazing that move. And that really is something that people have to face. And it's pretty interesting. Not quite as interesting as Twitter, though, John. So tell me why you've got Twitter up there right now.
Well, Pete, the head of security And I don't mean the security for like Jack Dorsey when he was chairman and things like that. I mean security, online security, cyber security. At Twitter has come out and said the cybersecurity at Twitter is really weak. He's doing the so-called whistleblower, which gives him protection against the company suing him, because in many cases, when you're a whistleblower, you could get sued, but not if you're basically revealing something that the company's doing wrong. And cybersecurity is one thing, Pete, but the other that Elon Musk is going to be all over is that this guy says, you know what, those fake accounts, we've known for a long time. We have a lot more than 5%. This guy is going to be a star witness, Pete, in the trial that Twitter might be stupid enough to go to, because they're the ones that are suing Musk to try to get him to perform and carry out his takeover. I think that when you've committed fraud, which if this whistleblower and Elon Musk are right, Twitter has committed fraud.
Yeah, it's interesting, John. I mean, it certainly is something that you and I have talked about many, many times. We've talked about the number of bots. We've talked about the percentage of bots. We know a lot of people who have bought many of their followers. How do you buy them? Oh, you just go online, pay a couple $1,000, you get a few more followers, and suddenly people say, wow, that guy's really important. He's got a lot of followers. Well, you can find out pretty easily who are the guys who actually have followers, who are the guys who bought bots. And there are bots out there for sale. They obviously know this at Twitter, John. So it's not like this is something that's just coming out of left field and they're saying, no, 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 no. I think they're saying, no, 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 no. Let's slow down a little bit, because this is a major issue, John. And I think that you might be right. I mean, I think that there's a lot to the idea that the percentages, the numbers are definitely something a lot different than what Elon was told and what all of us have been told for maybe a very long period of time. And that's something that makes you kind of nervous, I'd say. And I would say the Twitter people ought to be nervous about this whole thing, including the subpoena for Jack Dorsey that was something that Elon Musk just sent out.
Yeah, you're right, Pete. And board members should be nervous too, because there is board insurance that protects, and pays for their, for instance, legal help. But the issue here is if anybody in that boardroom knew that these numbers were not true and they signed off on it, that's a huge negative. All right, Pete. Huge negatives also work the opposite way when you're talking about precious metals. Negatives in the market, usually good for precious metals. I'm seeing a lot of activity in GLD right now. So the GLD was 162 this morning, Pete. They were buying 20,000 of the August 165 calls. And these are calls that expire in 3 days, Pete. So in other words, they've only got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday before there's something or nothing, because these are out of the money calls. So it was 162. If you don't trade options, you might want to stay back away from this one, because even though it's bullish, it's a very short-term trade. It's 3 days. And they're looking for this thing to move up quickly over the next 3 days, Pete.
Well, I got something very similar, John, because mine's expiring the same thing. It's expiring on Friday. Yeah, that's not that far away from us right now. Kraft Heinz. I'll tell you what, John, this name has hit on multiple occasions in the past. And I think generally they've been pretty correct on what they're looking at. Doesn't mean it's going to happen this time around, but they're coming after the 39 calls, John, that expire on Friday. They bought 10,000 of these calls. By the way, they did this in just a couple of prints to get that number. And these options are only going for about 14 cents up to about 35 cents. That's pretty interesting. And this is a Warren Buffett stock, John. People do tend to like to be involved in stocks that Warren Buffett seems to like. It's got a great dividend yield. It's got about a 4% dividend yield. That's pretty high. That gets you competitive, very competitive with the 10-year and other things. So there's a lot of reasons why at these levels where this stock has been hammered down to underneath 40, sitting just about 39, a little bit below 39 with these buyers, I think that stands out for me. This is very intriguing. I like when we see this kind of paper, but again, just like you were warning, this is a 3-day deal. So it's got to happen over the next couple of trading sessions or else it's bye-bye. So it does have that pressure, but they are right at the money right now.
Yep. Well, Pete, what about some of the other issues in sports,
Mhm.
which is the other side of your game. It's not just business, but also sports and the business of sports. There's some guys getting paid in college football these days.
Well, they are, John, and it's kind of fun because I'll give you the big guys first because the big guys always get looked past, right? Everybody wants to give the quarterback something. You look down at Alabama, you see these NIL agreements that these guys got. You can go across the country. They go after the quarterback. They go after a running back or a wide receiver, maybe. I love what Hooters did. Hooters came out and said, you know what? We're going for the big boys. We are going to give the big guys an opportunity to represent us. Who's eating all those chicken wings? I'll tell you who it is. It's those big fellas up front that weigh 350 pounds. They're excited. So Hooters has 51 offensive linemen from all kinds of different parts of the country and all different schools, different conferences, all that kind of stuff, John, where they have picked out a couple of guys here, a couple of guys there, total of 51 of them that are sponsored now. They got the NIL agreements, I should say. It's phenomenal. I'm excited about that. I got one other one for you that's really cool. There's a brand new wide receiver. He's a freshman at the University of Nebraska named DeColdest Crawford. So what did he get an NIL deal with? Well, he's going to be doing something with SOS Heating and Cooling. He's already put out something, and he's DeColdest, which is so great. And he's already had 5 million hits. And then I just checked it out, John. Now it's 6 million hits on Twitter or views on Twitter watching the ad that he put out for SOS. And I'll tell you what, they're the happiest guys on the planet Earth that they jumped on this kid. It's so much fun, and it's great to see the NIL money going to people other than quarterbacks. I love what Hooters is doing as well.
Yeah, I think it says a lot, Pete, about how much money there was out there that the colleges themselves could have taken advantage of and didn't.
Mm-hmm.
They obviously got the TV money. You and I talked about that yesterday with the Big Ten Network, basically saying, you know what, we're just going to go out to the highest bidders and forget the NCAA. Now you've got all of these folks, like you said, Hooters, would they have ever been an NCAA sponsor, Pete? Probably not.
Probably not.
Would this SOS Heating and Cooling ever have been an NCAA sponsor? Probably not. They might have been on the radio or something like that. But now the kids are getting paid, and it shows that there was a lot more demand than that terrible old crotchety NCAA that just couldn't find its butt with both hands. how they didn't basically find ways to, maybe help pay for these kids' schooling, for the kids that come out early and don't end up having a pro career. But they filled a stadium for, the couple years they were there, but they get nothing. Right. There was all kinds of money out there for all these kids, Pete. And that's why I'm enthused about this, even though I know it's not very balanced. It's not balanced in terms of geography around the country, and it's certainly not balanced in terms of the quarterbacks and running backs, Heisman, more or less, candidates versus everybody else on the field.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, John, the NCAA fumbled that. They continue to fumble. They continue to bumble. And one of these days, I don't know how long, but at some point, they might not exist. I mean, that's a strong possibility. A lot of people have kicked that around. John, the other thing we wanted to talk about real quick, too, on the sports front is, hey, college football starts this weekend. I mean, how great is that? I can't tell you. I mean, I'm in cloud nine because we got the NFL. I just went to a preseason game, which is the most boring thing on God's earth. We talked about it yesterday. But college football starts. Every game in college football matters. That's the great thing about football in general, is when the games are played, every one of them matter. You can't lose 5 in a row. You just can't. It's not going to happen, especially at the college level. You can't lose more than 1. So the fact that we're seeing college football back, I see Nebraska going all the way to Dublin to play Northwestern, John. Can you imagine how great that is for those kids to get the opportunity to go over there? I know you've got some citizenship, so you might even have to zip on over there, but it's so cool for me to see what's going on and the dollars it costs to make this happen. It just shows you how much money is out there. They're estimating that it's about a $10 million deal to get the teams all bussed and flown and everything over there to play in Dublin. But how exciting is it for these kids that they get the opportunity to do that in their opening game?
Yeah, it's really cool, Pete. And it's real football too.
Yep.
Like you said, there are real players on the field for the pros during preseason, but the plays and what's going on the field is not nearly the same.
No.
College football, even the first few games when things are getting worked out, is a lot more exciting because, like you said, they're in it to win it. They have to play hard from the very first whistle. So, yeah, more power to them. Folks, we're taking a break tomorrow, but we're going to be back with Rebel Edge on Thursday. Remember, Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll see you then.